Hello and welcome everyone to our next episode of Minerva PLM TV. I'm Jennifer Moore, your host, and I have with me today another very special guest, Leigh Young of Minerva. Leigh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, it's a pleasure.
So Leigh, of course, I know you, we work together, we're both in the PLM industry, but why don't you tell me a little bit of your background and how you got started in PLM?
Sure. So I'm the functional lead for solution consultants at Minerva, and I'm living in Denmark, in Europe, for 4.5 years now. I'm originally from Belfast in Northern Ireland. And I think originally my PLM journey started at university. So here I gained a master's in engineering design and a bachelor's in a branch of product design and manufacture. So this gave me an understanding of the overall product lifecycle, but to be honest, I had no idea what PLM was. Back then, I'd never heard of PDM and never heard of PLM, but without knowing it, I was learning about PLM at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left university, I had a mountain of debt, and I just took the first job that I could get. So I actually started working for a window vent and heat recovery systems manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
And my role there was product testing. So it's, again, maybe my first introduction to PLM in a company sense, but not traditional what maybe people think. So my testing was being used to improve the product design and also contribute to the marketing of the product, so product data.
Mm-hmm.
But it was highly unstructured, and again, I didn't know at the time that it had anything to do with PLM. I know now, but I didn't know then. So that opportunity was my first, let's say, experience in a manufacturing company. But then we had the credit crunch hit in the mid 2000s, and the building industry was being hit hard. So I took a new challenge, which was a graduate scheme in a completely different direction. So it was in IT at a large banking firm. So they took graduates of all backgrounds, and that's how I got in. But I think this gave me a broader understanding of technology in general. So databases, servers, there was even running big projects with multiple stakeholders. So there's skills I use today. And I think that was good to get that background in IT, because it's structuring most businesses today. So I did that for quite a while. I did it for 4 years, but I didn't like it. I don't know if I should say hate it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to get back to engineering. So I actually moved to Belgium for a year. So I left Belfast and I went to Belgium. Different culture, different environment. But here I got to use my engineering knowledge and my systems knowledge, and the two met in a job that was a development support coordinator, and I was in a manufacturing company. They made air conditioning units, heaters, chillers. So in this job, I supported the design systems, so the CAD and PDM, so Smart Team we use, and I was training staff on processes and procedures, and I chaired the change management meeting as well. So I enjoyed being back in manufacturing. And I think this was also the first time I had heard the term PDM. So it was really the first time that PLM came on my radar, was maybe the first step, which is PDM.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first time working in a design office, and I did that for only a year. I moved back to Belfast because I got a similar role in Belfast, and also using Smart Team, and it was for a aircraft seat manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
But this time my role was slightly different in that I had to set up the PDM system from scratch. So they bought it, and then they hired me, and then my job was, okay, you need to migrate all the CAD data, you need to set up all the processes, you need to train all the guys in CAD practices, configuration management. It was, it's your project, your baby, off you go. So that was a little bit different, because I went from everything being set up to right now it's your chance to set up everything.
Mm-hmm.
and my role here in this company evolved. So I started as a CAD systems engineer, and then I became head of engineering systems. And that meant I took on more responsibility and more tasks with other departments. So I actually started learning about PLM as a concept in this role. I'd experienced different aspects of PLM. So one of my tasks was to implement an RFID program, which is really far away from PDM systems. I had to attach RFID tags to the seats, and I had to establish the supply chain, the technology use, the information transfer systems. I did create processes for the shop floor to program the tags. So it was an interesting challenge to simplify the processes and make it easy for the shop floor operators. That was part of my job at the time. And then another example of the extended, let's say, PLM was I was involved in the machine shop, helping them get the CNC machines networked, and created a custom application myself to send some NC code to the through the network to the CNC machine. So I was using my technology experience, let's say, at this point, and again it was sort of doing PLM tasks in the overall company. So I got a holistic view on the whole company, the processes, the procedures, what it took to manufacture aircraft seats. And as the company grew, we needed more control, more process, more procedure, and PDM just wasn't enough. So PDM and these distributed ad hoc systems, they were just not sufficient for efficiency and growth. So we explored actual PLM platforms. And that was the next step for me, was to then implement my first PLM platform. It was actually 3D Experience, and I had to choose the right platform to suit our company, and we settled on that. And ironically, I assessed ARIS at the time, but we didn't understand the try it for free model. And the financial director in the company thought, okay, free, that equals risk. That's not something we're going to go for. So I think there was a lack of understanding on our side. So we went a different route. So that was taking me to my last job before I joined Minerva. And the next PLM step was to move to Denmark. My partner's Danish, so that's what brought me here, and to Minerva. And I think at the time I Googled PLM Aarhus, and Minerva came out on top. It's maybe not the only PLM vendor here, but it's one of the only vendors. And of course, implementing ARIS is where I am today. And in Minerva, I was initially a project manager and business consultant. Mm-hmm. But about 18 months ago, I migrated to the role of functional lead for solution consultants. And the objective now is to utilize my consultancy experience and my PLM experience to prepare and train and support the other solution consultants, mm-hmm. To enable them to operate more effectively with our customers.
And that's a really incredible background. I mean, going from traditional engineering university experiences onto making products, and then on, and then getting the IT experience to go with the engineering. That's really, I mean, like, what a path that you couldn't have planned better to be where you are now. And also, that experience of actually having been the person deploying PDM and PLM inside of companies, seeing those cultural challenges and the different elements of what it's like to have to select a system. I mean, that's really incredible. From all those different experiences, can you share with us some commonalities or real world examples of challenges that you've seen across these different roles, and how PLM has helped to support people in addressing those challenges?
Yeah, I think so. I think a couple of the main challenges that all the companies had trouble with or challenges with was the information structure was one, and the process efficiency was another. So by structure, I mean the storage of their product information, in all the businesses I worked in, I think it was scattered and unorganized is the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's impossible to find the information. So, documents, CAD files, even marketing brochures, test results, they're just stored in Windows Explorer, hidden in folders and file structures, and it's just chaos. And then efficiency. So, for example, in the last job I had, we worked to digitize the change process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's crazy because they printed off change requests. So every single engineering change from prototype all the way through to production was printed out on paper. It was taken to a CRB physical meeting. It was signed. It was scanned, and then it was also physically archived. So the amount of wasted paper, the amount of wasted time and effort in maintaining this process, it was killing the efficiency of the design department. So it was one example where we digitized the change process and made it better for the end users, and we saved a lot of time in the design department doing that. I also referenced the time when I worked with the CNC machines. So those guys were the operators were copying their NC files to a flash drive, and they were inserting the flash drives manually into the machines, and often picking the wrong file, the wrong version of the NC code. They were destroying expensive blocks of aluminium and or sometimes the tool heads. So it wasn't very efficient, and it definitely wasn't saving the company any money.
Right.
So they're just a couple of the challenges I would say is unorganized data and efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
I think having a PLM system, it allows people to be more efficient and all their product data is in one place, and also getting their processes under control.
Mm-hmm.
I think growing organizations and big organizations, then that's where we see the greatest need, because it can be hard enough to keep track of all the different things going on in a company, but the bigger the company gets, the more information is generated, and the more processes are being executed, then the bigger the problem becomes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I totally understand where you're coming from with the size of the company playing a role in that, because some of the smaller companies may be just moving from this paper-based or Excel-based process to a digitalized process for the first time. And that's one set of challenges. And then, of course, a customer that I met with very recently, extremely large global footprint, manufacturing in every single possible location across the world. And they have, a billion systems, and they've acquired tons of companies over the years. And they're like, okay, now we have to figure out not just where we want to be as a globally harmonized company, but also, what are our real challenges? Because in this group of companies with this product, it's going to look completely different than another. And then being able to combine those two and get that reuse and whatnot. So really the flip side of understanding your challenges is really knowing where you are. So do you have some kind of like a checklist or like common questions that help people kind of analyze better where they are? Because not every challenge glares you in the face like, oh, we just lost $1 million. That's obvious.
Yeah, so I think when people they're trying to solve their problems, they seek tools, they seek systems. So, and I think some companies claim they want PLM, they want PLM systems. They want when actually they only really want PDM. So like vaulting their CAD data. And then other companies, they want to move from this old way of doing it, like we've done in my previous company, from PDM, and they really want a full PLM solution. So I think we see lots of different headaches in companies, but to use an example, the design engineers, they have a lot of headache with structured data. So they need a tool, and companies normally start with CAD because it's the obvious structured data. It's the structured product data is your bill of material normally in a company. Mm-hmm. So it's clear that it's structured, it has hierarchies, and you need to get it under control. I think that's where most people start. So knowing that you need to get data under control. Structured data under control is probably the first step, and it's probably the best place to say, okay, where am I now? But the product structure is actually a lot bigger than just CAD data, and I think that's where when people recognize that, when a company can recognize that, they understand then they need PLM. PLM system. They are already doing PLM, but they need a PLM system. So to get a company to see that PLM is more than CAD is a challenge. But how do we do that then, or how do I do that? Then we can normally explore with the companies that have where their pain points are, and then establish if it's a PLM problem or something else. And I mean, everything can be considered PLM if we think you're making a product, and requirements could be one example. Most companies don't consider requirements as part of PLM. They don't think that they need to get it under control. Writing their requirements in Excel or on a Word document seems to be adequate, and they're happy with it. So they don't see the value in connecting the data and having this digital thread. It's a bit of a buzzword, but it's definitely valuable to see why did we create this product, and you can trace it back to the requirements. And I mean, reflecting on my own experience, it was I was in testing, so I was product testing, and we were using that information to improve the quality of the product. Mm-hmm. So it's something where could we have used a PLM system? Absolutely. So getting a company to identify they need it is a lot harder than maybe a checklist. So I don't think there's one checklist or one set of questions that we can assess where a company is. I think the challenges a company has are specific to them. Mm-hmm. So no two companies are approaching their product lifecycle management in the same way. They have different challenges depending on their size, their growth rate, what their existing IT systems or architecture is. The industry sector they're in provides a different set of challenges. Even what type of product development process they use. Are they engineer to order or make to stock? That also that gives a different set of challenges. And then you have regulatory requirements if you're in medical device or even aerospace, space and defense. And then security requirements. I mentioned defense as well. They may have a different set. And then you mentioned large companies, so multi-site, multinational. Yeah, so there's not really one checklist that you can go through because there's many different things we have to consider about where we are and whether we need system support to fix those problems. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the reasons that PLM consultancy exists. It's why I exist or why we exist. It's to help people identify executing a PLM strategy. So it's helping them see the long-term vision and then putting a plan in place and executing on that plan.
So within that answer, you mentioned a couple of different things. You talked about, PDM, PLM, ERP, all of the different ways that a company can be supported in having data challenges. So maybe data cleansing is the first place that they're going to start and whatnot. But do you have any tips, or can you elaborate on how a company will at least know, do they have a PDM, PLM, ERP, or some other alphabet soup acronym as to where they should start looking first?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think firstly, we should be clear that PDM is a part of PLM, and that's maybe the first thing to clarify. So PDM being a product data management, and it's one subset of PLM as a whole. And but PLM is in fact all the processes to do with product data. It's from requirements engineering all the way through to service and maintenance. So all the data you can capture for a product can be considered PLM, managing that information. I think maybe I should clarify what the acronyms mean first before I explain how we can identify you have a problem. So I think there's often a misconception that PLM is a technology. People say I'm going to buy PLM, and I read an article somewhere that said it talked about the death of PLM, and it actually made me laugh because how could somebody be so wrong about a concept? PLM is about processes and people, and it's nothing to do with a tool. And often companies are actually, they're doing PLM without realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing it chaotically. So if you're tracking part numbers on a spreadsheet, that's PLM. If you're storing files in a shared database, if you're making changes to your product in any way, then you're doing PLM whether you like it or not. So
Yep.
everybody's doing it. It's just it's then what do we mean when we say PLM? So then maybe you're talking about the technology. So the technology you're using is maybe not one application. It could be multiple tools. Microsoft Office, or a CAD tool is also within PLM, or doors for requirements engineering, or Team Center, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I always mention my first job, where again I didn't realize I was testing window events, and I was actually involved in PLM. So sometimes it's not so obvious, but you're definitely in there. So if PLM's dead, then the products are dead and the companies are dead. It's I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
No.
So yeah, because PLM is maybe all-encompassing, then people get a little bit scared about the size and the scope whenever they are picking a system or a range of systems. And I think that's the reason people move to the PLM platforms, and they try to consolidate these tools. Like I said, maybe you have Doors for requirements engineering, or No Magic for systems engineering, SharePoint for document management. All these different tools can all go into maybe a PLM platform, and it's something that people try to do, but they often don't know where to start in that area. So where does ERP come in? So ERP is enterprise resource planning,
Mm-hmm.
and it's controlling maybe the more dynamic product elements. So dynamic in terms of cash and raw materials, and the product execution. So the goal here is more about increasing the efficiencies in manufacturing and minimizing waste, maintaining their stock levels, ensuring that the material arrives at the right location at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually quite difficult to get people to look away from ERP, from being ERP centric, because ERP is about saving money.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that's buying the ERP system is also the guy with the checkbook, and he's looking at how to save money. So it's often that the ERP vendors are very good at selling their product, and they're also good at chipping away at things that have, let's say, nothing to do with them. So some PLM, some ERP vendors claim they have PLM capabilities. Actually, I have a example where we had a crossover meeting with a PLM vendor, which was ours, and a CRM vendor and an ERP vendor. So the three of us were in the room with a customer, and we're discussing variant management. And everybody was trying to take, their slice of the pie, but also a little bit more. So trying to edge out the competition. And I was like, why do you even think we're competition? It's the ERP was like, yeah, we can do document management and change control. It'll only require a small hack and a small tweak. And I'm sitting there going, okay, how much does that hack and that tweak cost? And does it mean that you're really the experts in this domain? Maybe you should let some of the document management areas stay in PLM, since that's where we're strong, and we don't try and touch your manufacturing execution, because that's where you're. So yeah, if I was to summarize, I think I would say that PLM focuses on the product and defining the product, and ERP focuses on more delivering the product.
Mm-hmm. So
both systems can coexist, and both are needed in manufacturing companies.
Absolutely.
But if your problem is more product definition related, then it's most likely that you need a PLM system, or maybe even PLM processes that don't exist. Mm-hmm. And if your problem is related to manufacturing process execution or resource consumption, then it's likely to be ERP.
Excellent. Great definitions and explanations. Thank you so much for that. We're almost done here for today. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share or words of wisdom?
Oh, I think maybe on just a general term where so companies now are going digital, and they're going digital for everything. And we're seeing that even the products are going digital. So, you know, systems engineering is a real hot topic at the minute. And I mean, Dr. Agner spoke in one of the other PLM shows that you ran about this, was it system lifecycle management?
Yes.
So I think, yeah, I think this is the next step maybe for what we call PLM. I agree with his definition of it, that yeah, we now need to manage data, and it's getting more and more complex all the time. So, you know, we're going to need system support in some way. I don't think we can survive in Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint and Microsoft Access. So yeah, it's definitely a good area to be in at the moment, and I can only see it growing as companies grow, as complexity grows. Then yeah, we need to get a handle on this data that's flying around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I
That's
think
great advice.
that was probably it for me. But thank you for having me today, and I've enjoyed watching the shows myself. So
Thank
I'm
you
glad
so
to
much.
share my experiences, and I hope the viewers enjoyed what I have to say.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Leigh. I really appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you for the kind words as well. And to all of our viewers, of course, if you enjoyed this session, remember to hit the like and subscribe so that you'll be alerted to future content. And if you have a question that you'd like to have answered in a future session, please drop your comments below or send me an email at jmo@minerva-plm.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.